This week on the show, we are joined by The Damn Truth. It's going to be a good one. Welcome back to the Rockman Power Hour, a podcast where we like to talk to the most interesting people in the world of pop culture and everywhere in between. I am joined by my co-host, Ryan Stick. Ryan.
How's it going?
What's going on, buddy?
It's going good. It's been one of those kind of days where I'm like, I think Will Smith was right. Not by slapping Chris Rock, but because of the whole iRobot thing where my internet was fucked up. And I contact my internet provider and an AI chat opens up and I literally say, what's happening? And they're like, that does not comply with our FAQ. Can you rephrase that?
That's the norm now, dude. That's the norm now.
And I'm just like, Sarah Connor was right. Yeah, so it was kind of interesting. Yeah, at the same time, we're using this tool to talk to each other right now across, well, not time and space, but across space. You're over there, I'm over here. So that's nice. So, whatever. Thanks, Robot Overlords, for this.
It's pretty interesting when you think of the way they've kind of like tried to make everything a little bit easier. And a lot of people think that they're doing this, in the grand scheme of things, it's going to be better for everyone because we'll have to do less menial tasks. But there are people that aren't working because of that. And well, listen, it's shifts. We see them all the time. I've seen them in my lifetime from just, when you look at formats of we consume media, like, shifts from vinyl to CD, vinyl and cassette to CD, and then back to vinyl and then streaming and MP3s. Like, it's just one of those things that happens and we kind of have to ride through it. But I think we're in one of those times now with AI where it's starting to creep in. Like they're really like jamming it down our throats. Like, you're going to love AI. Here you go. And everywhere on my phone, even summaries in my email. Like I'm noticing now, I don't know, the iPhone download gave us this new thing in the last update where they summarize your email. So you're looking at your email and in the email, like there's a couple of lines that summarize what the email is about so it can make it quicker. So
Jason's in a mood.
No, but really it'll say stuff like that. Like, order not ready. Client wants to talk about it next week. And then they'll give you a follow-up prompt. So in a way it's kind of cool because it'll make you more efficient, but I don't know. Anyways, we're not here to talk about that. We're actually here to talk about a band who, when you look at them, they look like they stepped out of the late 60s, early 70s. I mean, they're about as authentic as a rock band as you can get. And I'm really, really happy that we got The Damn Truth on the show because Ryan, I mean, if you've lived in this city for the last decade, I mean, The Damn Truth have been kind of part of the furniture. I mean, they're just that Montreal band who everyone's proud of, everyone loves to go see live, and they're starting to really, really make waves overseas.
It's kind of unanimous in a sense where everybody who hears them, nobody says, oh, The Damn Truth, man, they suck, or Damn Truth, man, they're overrated. Quite the opposite, actually. Yeah. They're kind of a unifying factor when it comes to people that love metal, genre, rock, all that other stuff. I think everybody can agree that just the raw talent that explodes out of that band's live performances and recording is just impressive overall, and it's very universal. I remember hearing them on a show. I thought it was a band 30 years removed. I'm like, wow, they remastered that sound pretty good. Like, how does this new band sound like an old band? And I just remember just being utterly impressed vocally. Yeah. Like, holy shit. It is a lost art to not only sing like that, but to not sound overproduced and just riddled with auto-tune and just have all these crutches. This is like it kind of reminds you of a better time. Like, we opened this episode talking about all this crazy AI robot shit. And I'm like, what? Remember a time when studio trickery was as you couldn't fake good?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. The cream rose to the top. And is that the expression? Cream rose to the crop top, whatever.
Cream rises to the top. Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. All those expressions I can barely understand. What I do understand, though, is this band is fucking awesome.
Yeah,
it's really cool that they're on the show today.
Good band, good people, and I'm really, really glad we're able to support them. The new album came out last Friday, and they're playing tonight at the M. Telus Theater. So without any further ado, here are The Damn Truth. All right, we are here with The Damn Truth. Really, really excited to have you guys on the podcast. I feel like this is long overdue, and I feel like there's so much to talk about today because since I've known you, I mean, the growth has just been like, and it's just so fun to see. It's fun to watch kind of from the sidelines as a fan now and to see how much you guys are doing, how people are waking up to it. How people are supporting it. And I'm just glad to have you guys all here today. And I'm glad you guys are all able to get here and not just have one or two of you, because it's rare that you get to talk to an entire band together. You know, a lot of time when people are doing press, they'll split up. Oh yeah, okay, you know, PY and Dave will take this outlet, you know, Leela and Tom will take this outlet. But to have you all here together is really fun because I feel like this is a story that needs to be told from everybody's point of view, because there's so many points of view when you're in a band.
For sure, and I think it's also, first of all, thanks for having us. So awesome to be here. But it's it's important for all of us to be here because the role that you played in the early life of this band is huge. And we never got to do it. And I'm super happy that we're finally doing this.
So I think the first time you guys got played on show was on my show. It was on the Big Shiny New Song of the Week, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was either that or it was like the Jay Walker Montreal Rocks.
Maybe it was Jay. Maybe it was Jay's. Yes, it was probably Jay's. So
I don't know if Jay's play counts, man, because we got played after midnight.
Still, a lot of people got to remember that Jay, kind of like me, he was one of these guys that really wanted to help local bands, and he had this thing set up, which was great. And it was full local programming. He got to program it any way he wanted to. And of course, with radio being as smart as it is, they just decided to not give any more funding to that. And that kind of sucked for him. But the reality was that there were still people that really, really wanted to help. And I remember when I started at Show'em, my whole thing was, because I came from the same background as you guys, like I was the guy knocking on the door trying to get support. All I wanted to do was keep the door open, crack it open and get people inside. So yeah, I might not have been the first, but I know that
we appreciate it tremendously.
Oh my God. People don't realize how hard it is for, DJs to do that kind of that God's work, if you will, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, because it's not, listen, you guys are in a very enviable position because you've been embraced by a local radio station that have pretty much added you as like a constant. And that's so amazing. But, for a lot of bands, that midnight play or that one feature that they'll get for a week is all they get. So when you do get embraced by a local radio station and they take you in as their own and you become part of part of the station, that's a beautiful thing to see. And it's been like more than a decade now.
It's really, really amazing. We really, really do feel blessed. I mean, we just had the rock room where we
played the record.
Where we played the record live. And that really, for me, that was a moment of like, wow, I can't believe we get to do this here in our city, in our station. It was really, really surreal.
Beautiful.
I also remember that, in the beginning, when you're super young and you're trying to kind of like start playing music around town and whatever, and we were trying to find our place in the scene, in the Montreal scene, and all the indie stuff that was going on, and metal was pretty big also at the time, but we couldn't we weren't that, but we weren't that either, and we weren't anything, really. And so and to be embraced by you guys back in Show'em and all the work that you guys did for us, it gave us a purpose and it gave us a home,
well, and when you don't fit in, again, talking from personal experience, being in a band that never fit in, being in a band that was kind of like you couldn't define in the early 90s, like we never fit in. Like, we were this weird band that didn't really want to conform. Like we came out at a time when it was Our Lady Peace, Tea Party, I'm Mother Earth. And some of those bands took us out with them, but we always stood out like a sore thumb. So we never fit in. And the only time we fit in is when we actually moved and went somewhere where a scene, what we were doing was happening. So I get it. Sometimes and I've seen what's been happening with you guys over the last few years going to the UK. And it seems like the UK's embraced you. And that to me is like, I love seeing when a band from a city, now that it's nice to see you embraced here, but when you go somewhere like that, so far away, and it's like, they get it. And it's like, whoa, that is a nice thing to see, because that's what bands need to do. When you're not getting the support you need where you are, you've got to move somewhere else.
I totally
That's
agree with you.
100% true. It's crazy. And you know, your reaction, like, holy shit, is so true because we weren't used to it. And the first few times we went to the UK, every time we'd return, you would see this like grassroots organic growth, which
Yeah.
is, you know, when you can see that physically manifested show after show, it's like, holy shit, there's something happening here. And you know, we've never taken it for granted, and the UK is like family to us.
So when you go to a place like what would be the city in the UK where you just have the most, you can feel the support the most?
I mean,
Off
last
the
time we
top of
were
my
in the,
head, Southampton.
Yeah.
last time we were in the UK, all the shows were sold out in all the cities. So
Yeah.
when you go to the
Yeah.
UK, you know, a place where you guys have all been fans of the music that's come out of, and you show up in a room where you know that every band you like has played, especially
It's
those
crazy.
rooms. It's got to be crazy when you
It's
show up.
wild.
It's
It's
got to be a
wild.
great feeling. And it's the strangest thing because things like that don't happen unless you do the things that you guys have been doing, like all the small stuff that people don't see, you know,
Totally.
like, you know, like playing every show that you can, showing up for shows that suck, you know,
No days off.
nothing. And that's the thing, is like when the hard work starts to pay off and you go to another market and you're like, oh man, there's like 10 dates and they're all sold out and we're not from here. That's when you know that the work's paying off.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And like you say, the small things. The reason I said Southampton earlier is because it's a very old venue.
Yeah.
Every time we've played there, it's always been packed tight. The owner remembers what each of us, like, we arrive there and there's a platter of coffee and each of our coffees is made the way that we like it. That guy is a fan of music and he's a friend now. And like, that's huge. No,
Yeah.
like, we come back 8 months later. You remember what each of us like in our coffee, take care of us like crazy, prints posters out of his own pocket, like crazy big posters, and gives them to us. Like, it's a beautiful thing to see, to keep rock and roll fires like stoked like that. People are doing it like at home and without being in a band, people are keeping rock and roll alive, you know?
Yeah. The new record's out. You guys have a show in Montreal next week at MTELUS. You're headlining MTELUS. Tell me a bit about the way that this band started and some of the like the early stuff. I'm talking like, I mean, I do know a bit of the story of how Leela and Tom met, and I think it's hilarious. I remember that, and it has to do with very few clothes. But,
Yes.
but I'd like to know. Maybe we should tell that story because I've heard it, but some people here haven't heard it. So why don't we tell the story of how this? Let's just go back and tell me the story about how this band actually started.
Sure. So I was at this hippie festival. I was sitting around a bonfire. It was very, very warm, and nobody had clothes on. It wasn't just me.
Right.
And I was playing guitar, and I remember playing one of my favorite Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young songs that was almost cut my hair. And then this beautiful long-haired boy wearing nothing but his acoustic guitar sits down and started playing. He didn't say a word. I don't even think we like looked at each other. He just started playing.
Okay, let me just stop you. There's no way you didn't look at each other because you're naked.
No, I swear, man. I think my eyes were probably closed.
He's like, yeah, come on. You're like, I mean, everything's out there. How come I never got invited to these parties?
The only reason I went there is because a friend of mine told me, you know, there's a bunch of hippie chicks naked in this festival. Let's go. And I was like, of course, let's go. But it was like, you know, you got to be naked too. I was like, okay, I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah. And we played and we played and we played for hours. And eventually we did, introduce each other. And I did take a look at him and he looked fine.
That's what I get. Fine.
Fine. He was all right. But he played really, really well.
Right. So basically you guys started that's how the nucleus of the songwriting and this band kind of started. And then when you branch out and you're looking for, I mean, were you guys living in the same city? Like, what was the story?
Yeah, so we're living in Montreal and we're looking for some work as musicians, like, way back when. And somehow Leela, myself, and Dave all ended up on a gig backing up this pop singer. Her name was
Lindsay Robbins.
Lindsay Robbins, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
you remember, yeah.
Yeah, so I think my buddy, one of my best friends, Rob, played with Lindsay Robbins. Rob,
yeah,
he played bass with her at one point.
Okay.
Right
Yeah.
on.
So yeah, our first bass player David, Dave, Leela, and myself
Yeah.
were hired to be the backup band for Lindsay.
Yeah.
And that project, I think we only played a couple shows and did a few rehearsals. It wasn't very serious. It
Right.
didn't really go anywhere. But when the whole thing kind of blew up, I was like, well, maybe if we just put Leela in the front, we can keep this band on, because the band was amazing. Like Leela and I never played with musicians like that before. They
Right.
were like higher guns level,
Good musician.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So I thought, I have a great band here. I just have to find a way to like keep us together somehow.
Yeah.
Right.
Dave can tell from his perspective, but that was mine.
I was fully dressed when the phone rang.
Yeah, right.
It was Josh Traeger of the Sam Roberts Band, who was kind of like the musical director of Lindsay Robbins' band at the time. Or that's like, the story that we got. I didn't want to be in any like bands. I was like a for-hire drummer. So when the phone rang, I was like,
you were smart.
do it.
You wanted to go make money. You didn't.
Yeah,
want to do
exactly.
that.
Yeah, And I definitely didn't want to be in a band. I could tell you that at that time. So, we went in and we started to do the rehearsals, and it was like pretty clear that I think we were like replacing a bunch of other guys that had like literally just like they had taken off or they had been fired or whatever. But it didn't, there was a stink in the air basically. So, I mean, we went in there, we did a few rehearsals, we did a few shows, and then it really fizzled out fast. Like that gig. But Tom's saying the right thing. It's like we were all together. There was a good chemistry, and decided to keep like the project going and start to write together and all this stuff. On one night, Tom actually came to me with an ultimatum. The night that he really wanted to take that project to like forward, it was a snowy night. We were doing a New Year's Eve gig. Kind of like we had gotten hired for something else, like little gigs trickling in. And just after midnight, we had done the champagne, eaten the meal, played the gig. He gives me an ultimatum, says, "You're going to join my band or else we're done."
Wow.
I don't remember.
I don't remember this.
Well, it was only me and Tom out there on the deck in the balcony, Anyway, needless to say, I took the gig and we forged forward. But I didn't want anything to do with a rock and roll band. I had been in a bunch of bands, and it was always like chaos, really, 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 really hard. You know what I mean? You know what it's like to be in a band, so it's like,
oh, it sucks.
That was,
there's nothing. I mean, there's some beautiful moments about it, but the reality is, for the depending on where you are on a bill, for the 30 to hour and a half that you're 30 minutes to hour and a half that you're on stage, the rest of the time you're just dealing with just garbage. You're just dealing with like nonstop boulders in the middle of the road that you have to move out of the way.
This is true.
Flat tires for us.
Burning vans, like God,
Burning vans, yeah.
I mean, that was, I guess, the beginning of the story of the
Right.
Damn Truth, or the roots of the Damn Truth. We had been playing for a while, a little bit, playing her music, playing some covers, playing all this
Right.
stuff, and it was like there was a moment, like a line drawn in the sand. Okay, this is the Damn Truth. We have to start writing some music and take the project.
Right after we recorded our second album, our bass player at the time, David, decided that, like you said, Jason, this life is not for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
He
I know,
really-
and I know David, really nice guy, talented musician, like
Super nice guy. Yeah. Yeah. And a great musician. You're right.
It takes
But
a
he
lot
was-
to realize you're not where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. It was just
yeah.
not for him.
Yeah. No, I get it. And listen, like that's the reality, is that when you're as committed as you guys are, and there's no doubt that you guys are that committed, there's no half measures. It's like, it's all or nothing with this band, and you can tell. So I think the addition of PY kind of just was like that missing piece of the puzzle that you guys needed. And you feel it now, with him in the band, you can feel that this band you kind of found the missing piece. You know what I mean? It's like,
For sure. I mean, we had auditions. I remember tried out a bunch of people, but with PY it was instantaneous. Like I knew from the minute that he walked into the room. He carried his SVT up the stairs to the rehearsal space. Like, who does that? It's a fucking 100-kilo amp. I don't know. He's like, he was committed. I was like, I love that.
yeah,
From my perspective, when I arrived to Montreal, it was the same story. I came from rock and roll. I was in 2 rock bands when I was back home near Labrador.
So I was going to say, where are you originally from?
It's called the Lower North Shore of Quebec. It's the northern tip of Quebec, like basically just below the line of Labrador. So it's a like fringe society. You can't get there by vehicle. You have to like take a boat or plane. So you're very kind of like cut off from everything. So you live in the past, Everything's 15 to 20 years behind schedule. I remember I got Doritos Barbecue Bold, I think 3 years after I was watching the ads on TV, salivating. but I was in 2 bands. I had a band, my first band ever, called Black Velvet, and my second band, which was more of a serious band, but you know, you can only do so much back home. You can't even get gear unless you order it out of a catalog and you wait a couple months. It comes on a boat.
Sure.
So my second band was called Jet Lag. And then I came to Montreal and noticed immediately no rock and roll at all. No country at all. Like nothing even close. So there was one band. I came to study at Vanier College in music, and there was this band there called The Gospel According to John Wayne. I don't know if you remember them. They were also had a deal at the time, and they were doing well. And I was like, holy shit, I got to get into this band. It's the only like rock band around. But then within 3 weeks, they had all turned into jazz guys, and like rock was garbage, you know? So I was like, the only rock band I could find dissipated immediately into what the other people here in this band were describing, the indie kind of wish-wash that was happening at the time. So I got into the metal scene, and then eventually ended up playing a gig in Ralph, our manager's art gallery, with an R&B band. And Ralph, this was right after David left, and Ralph said, do you want to jam with a rock band? And my eyes went bing. Did you say rock band? And I was like, yeah, of course, before he even told me the name. And then, as Tom said, when we first met each other, well, the first time I spoke to Tom, I was actually at a wedding in Newfoundland, pretty drunk out of my mind. And we had like a heart-to-heart. I'm outside having a smoke in the dark, like talking to some guy. And now we're family, you know?
It's amazing.
But Tom, to correct you, actually, you and Dave carried up my SVT, and I'll always remember that, because I was like, these people are genuine people. And
That doesn't sound like me.
Yeah,
you both carried up my amp while I found parking.
Listen,
that was huge.
If I can give Tom some credit too, I remember a couple years back, I had during the pandemic, my wife and I had bought kayaks, which we subsequently used twice. But we had bought kayaks at Costco, and we were like, how the fuck are we going to get these kayaks back? Like, how are we going to get these kayaks to where they need to go? And I remember I put a thing up on Facebook, like, anybody have a van that I could rent? And I remember Tom messaged me. He's like, hey man, I got you. And I was like, dude, really? And it was really, really a kind gesture. So I'm not surprised that they carried your amp up the stairs. I mean, 100%. It makes sense. It's a kind of,
you know, Jason, we got really lucky that day, because when I got back home from the kayak trip,
I remember you. Yeah, what happened? You told me something.
The van died completely. Like, it would never start again. Yeah. So I remember like parking at like whatever your uncle's. I don't remember where we.
Yeah, we were at my wife's brother's house.
Yeah, something like that. And I left the van running. Then thank God for that, because if I didn't leave running, the van would still be there probably.
Do you guys still have the same van?
Yeah,
we do. We call her the White Horse.
The White Horse. Well, every band has to have a name for their van. You know,
yes.
We used to call ours Sens, and then sometimes we had another one. We called it the Pig. And
that's a good name, the Pig.
But so when you guys go to the UK, what do you tour in?
We got a
Mercedes Sprinter,
like a Sprinter, right?
Have
you guys Have you guys ever done a bus tour?
Not
yet. No.
That's the next step.
From an economy of days of old,
right? No, but I'm saying, like, have you ever spent a night on a bus in a bunk?
No.
That's going to change your
life.
I've
spent many nights on bunks on trains, but not not a bunk of a bus.
No. We're hotel people, Jason.
Right? No, but that's okay. I mean, listen. The thing is, when you tour economically, and when you tour in a van, and when you tour to live, it's a whole different ballgame. And people don't
100%.
realize that if you run your shit like a business, which I know you guys do, you can do well. Like, you can do well enough, and a lot better than people let on, if you're smart, you know, and if you're willing to do the sacrifices. And I know you guys are that kind of band. You'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah, for sure.
We're working on the smart part.
Working on it.
Really? So obviously you've got a bit of support now. You guys signed, and I have to tell you also, I love the content you guys have been doing, because you guys have been, I don't know, you guys have just been sharing a lot of what it's like to be in a band, and you're doing a great job at letting people in. One of the ones that I really enjoyed was you were talking about, we're signing a record deal in 2025. Are we stupid?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to comment because I mean, I think, listen, it's the necessary evil, unfortunately, for most bands, is you have to do that. You have to do that thing where you build a team around you, whatever it is. What was it like to sign a record deal now? I mean, because you guys are all, I know you guys are all rock and roll fans. I know you guys are probably, to some degree, rock and roll historians, in the sense that you've read the stories, you've heard the horror shows.
Yeah.
What was it like when someone comes to you like Spectra and goes, "Here, this is what we want to do with you"? Is there a bit of like recoiling from a hot flame, like, ugh, or is there how does that? And I'm not asking you to throw anybody under the bus, but I'm just asking from an honest point of view, where do you guys stand when you have that conversation and you have to all look at each other?
I think I'll just say something, and then anybody else can talk about it. But like, I think that by the time we got to like actually looking at offers from record deals seriously,
yeah,
we were in a different place than where a lot of bands historically and today are looking at record deals. I mean,
right.
Leela and I got offers when we were in our early 20s. I don't know if you saw that, but like, we were in a meeting where somebody told Leela she has to get a boob job if she wants to.
Yeah, I saw that. Now that's I mean, it's fucking ridiculous, but at the same time, it doesn't.
Like,
it doesn't surprise me, man. I've been
man.
told. I've had people tell me so many things. I've had
like, what? Tell us, please.
People told me at one point to fire our guitar player because he couldn't play even flow.
Right.
Kevin got told to fire me because I had a limited range that I could see. Like, we all had things that we've been told the craziest things. I've been told by people that we were going to be, if we didn't sign with them, that we were going to be destroyed, and we'll never get a deal. We'll never get anywhere. Like, I've had it, and it's such a horrible position to be in, because when you think about it, when you're an artist, you so desperately just want to be heard, and you just want to be able to have the opportunity to do what you want to do. And it's not, what people don't understand, it's not like a regular job where you go to school, you get the qualifications, and then, you apply and you get chosen, and then you work in that career. Music's a whole different thing, man. It's really, really like a cesspool of degenerates that work in that business. Still, it's just, they're just wrapped up differently. And it's just a different format, but they're always out there to manipulate the young artist, with the starry eyes. And it's just, that's why I think, with the way that the world is structured now, the way that you can get music out to people independently, it's a different place that we live in now. And I think that if you're smart, you can really, really do well, but you just have to keep a certain bit of I don't want to say a wall, but a certain bit of a defense in front of you. What were you going to say, PY?
Yeah, I would just like to postface what Tom said, and I guess the others could comment on it too afterwards. What we have with Spectra is very special, and we're absolutely incredibly lucky to have the kind of deal that we do have. It's kind of unseen, and when we speak to other labels and stuff in other territories, they see the deal that we have here, and they're like,
"We can't do that." Right. And that's a great thing. And that's the thing, not to go back on the other side of it. There are also some incredible people that work in this industry that are champions for people. And
they are that. They're like family now.
All I ever wanted when I was in this industry was to have someone champion our band. And when we did have those few opportunities, it was amazing, because when you do have someone that champions you guys, and you've had many champions over the years, Bob Rock being one of them. When you have someone that has a bit of clout and has a bit of they can push the door open for you and they can get people to listen, that's a great feeling, because there are a lot of people that are in this business that aren't necessarily out to just screw you. They really just want to see someone, realize what they want to do as a dream.
100%. Yeah, I think, and we are very, very lucky. Like when you mentioned Bob Rock, he's just, we are so extremely lucky and grateful that we were able to work with him, and that he does continue to be an amazing friend and champion to us. Like, he's it didn't stop at the studio. We talked to him, and we have a great
Dude,
rapport, and
Bob
he's
fucking
wonderful.
Rock. Like, when you first told me when I heard it, that you guys were, I remember going, "Are you fucking kidding me? That's Bob Rock." Like, dude, forget about all the stuff he produced. Let's talk about the fucking songs he wrote. With the payolas. Like, the guy's a beast of a songwriter, and he also is an incredible producer. But when you have someone like that believes in you,
Mm.
it's a great feeling, because it's almost like all the work you've done is justified.
But I feel like that's the kind of stuff that can happen when you're not quote unquote a trendy band, when you don't just
Yes.
do the thing that everybody else is doing.
Right.
You grab the attention of really special people, because
Sure.
really special people don't do what everybody else is doing. You know what
Yes,
I mean?
exactly.
So it's like, yeah, it took longer for us. You know, we weren't a part of like the Montreal indie whatever scene that. By the way, is completely gone by now. There's no venues left for these people to play, and there's almost no scene like
Very sad.
of like that indie whatever movement that it was like
Wow.
that Montreal was the capital of, right?
Yeah.
For so many years. But you know, we're still here and we're still doing stuff, and it's because I think like important people, record label people, producers are attracted to people who are like a little bit different and do their own thing. You know.
Well, I think yeah, go ahead.
It's pretty incredible to also work with somebody who was part of that world that we were maybe born a little bit too late to be a part of.
Yeah.
So you feel a little bit like a piece of it, just in the way he looks at stuff, the way that the process is, and how he responds to you. It ain't 2025 when we're in the studio, you know, it's 1970. It's crazy cool.
Yeah, and it's great.
To be a part of that.
And when you have someone like him that understands where to place a microphone, that understands, you know, and also someone that's a musician, you know, that I'm sure he can pick up, you know, a guitar, or he can talk to you in a language where, like, I'm a songwriter as well, you know.
Totally.
And we can't forget to mention his engineer, Adam, who's also always been there for us, who could sing you anything on the snap of a finger. He'll sing you any line, any key, anything perfectly.
It's got to be
awesome.
nice. It's got to be nice to go into a studio, though, because a lot of bands, were you guys able to track all together?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's
the basis of the record is always live off the floor.
That's amazing, because so many bands just don't have that opportunity anymore. And a lot of bands aren't actively looking for that. You know, when you've recorded in a studio, when you've recorded on tape, when you've you know, recorded live, just people that have recorded live drums, like, a lot of people don't even understand that, you know, like when you record in a drum room, and Dave, you've got a studio, I mean, you know, when you get that opportunity to actually record in a studio, it's an incredible experience that a lot of musicians nowadays don't even get.
I think it's just the way we've always done it. I mean, even since the beginning, as you know, when we made our first recordings, we found the means to record together and to play together and get the music to come, at least the foundation of the music to come out of the studio as a unit, you know?
Yeah.
So it's something that we want to do. It's also something that Bob like insists on doing, so that you can really craft the whole, you know, the whole musical arrangement is happening at the same time. So it's, you know, there's some definite advantages to doing it that way, in addition to the fact that it's like just the feel changes completely for the music when the four of us, you know, can really, you know, play our way through it together.
And Dave, you must be like a kid in a candy store when you're in that place.
I mean, the studio that Bob insists on working on, Bryan Adams' studio, The Warehouse, he says is one of the best studios in the world. I believe it.
Yeah.
But I mean, the gear and all that stuff is unbelievable. But the room, that the drums are sitting in, it blows my mind. You know, to just be able to hit my snare drum one time in that room.
So Dave, for the gear nerds, you should mention that drum setup when we walked in, the room within the room,
everything over there is just like
unbelievable.
Next level stuff. And that's like, you know, Bryan Adams comes with a collection of stuff, but Bob Rock comes with a whole other, like, he's got a unit of instruments, guitars, mics, amps, pedals, everything you can imagine. You know, he's got assistants. So it's like, go get this guitar for me, go get this instrument, go get that pedal. And it's like within a few minutes, this like treasure trove of sounds come up that he's just sort of like wished up in his mind. And the instruments are there in front of you. And in 5 minutes, there's a piano in the room, and there's a Wurlitzer, and there's a synth, and there's, I don't know, Tom's got the list of guitars. It's just,
I remember asking him what,
that's a bit mind blowing, you know?
I remember asking him what one of the mics, like, because the way they set up Dave's drums was like he had his kick drum, a bunch of mics, and then another kick drum. So he's like kicking his kick drum through the mics into another kick drum somehow. And I remember asking him what one of these mics in between the two kick drums was, because it had no name, nothing, just looked like this metal thing. And he's like, I don't know, something from the USSR.
Right.
Old
right.
shit, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And he's
that's the,
using it still.
that's the
Yeah.
thing, is that when you get into these, when you work with guys like that, that have done it at a certain level, it's incredible. And I think that's one of the saddest things about where we're kind of at with music for a lot of musicians, that they're never going to experience that. I mean, when you see the difference of someone placing a mic, like, in front of a drum, next to a drum, behind a drum, and then like you're talking about all those mics, and then all that kind of stuff is just little things that unfortunately have just kind of, it's almost like a lost art. It's like someone who's a shoemaker, or someone who,
For us, it's like we're obviously all gear
Totally.
nerds and
Sure.
whatever, but on a more philosophical level, I mean, like we've been under this kind of, I don't know how else to say it, but like under this blanket of like pop in the last, like, I don't know how many years,
Yeah.
where everything is supposed to sound the same. It's you're supposed to use the same drum machine on the grid, and you're supposed to use all the auto tune in the world to make it sound perfect or whatever. And what you end up with is music that could be so easily replicated by AI. So it's like you can just press a button and it'll make you the same song as, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, Drake or whatever. But it's like it's really hard for AI to replicate something that a bunch of people in a room are playing,
Yeah.
And it's like people should remember that. It's like music should stay human. It's up to a certain point. There's nothing wrong with electronic music or whatever.
No.
It has its part, but like when you try to like do something that's emotional and connect with people, I think it's really important for us as musicians and as the audience to preserve it as much as possible.
Yeah. And I think it also comes down to, a lot of the time, every instrument and every musician has a certain way that they play that just is, it's a signature. You can feel it, like I remember Dino from Fear Factory. He came and played something with us at one point, that we were recording, and just the way he attacked his strings, he played a 7-string and it was down tuned, and just the way he attacked it, you could tell it was him playing.
Right.
Like there's no doubt about it. But obviously, you guys are in a very enviable position that you have a fucking incredible singer. So
Thank you.
And that's always been the thing that people have noticed right out of the gate. And I think with vocals,
Impossible not to.
well, that's what I mean. And I think the thing with vocals, and I could say this being someone who's, quote unquote, a vocalist, when you are someone that is not a musician, but you're someone that's a casual listener, just a fan of music, the voice is usually the thing that you connect with the most, because you can do that to a certain degree. Like someone could try to sing, but not everyone could pick up a pair of drumsticks and play drums. Almost nobody can just take a guitar and play. So the thing that someone can do is they can sing, or they can at least make a noise with their throat. So I think that's always been the thing. People have said, wow, they have a great fucking singer. But then when you dive into the band, you realize the whole band's solid. For you, Leela, recording, I know I've been in a studio with you. You sang on something that we did, a few years back. I know when you show up, you have your shit together. Do you go into a situation like that when you're recording a record with Bob Rock nervous, or more like, I know what I got to do, I got control of this, I've been training my whole life for this moment?
I think it's a good mix of the two.
Yeah.
I definitely want to be excited and a little nervous and a little frightened when I go into the studio, because
Sure.
it keeps me on edge, and it gives my voice sometimes like I could sit and practice it at home and be at ease for hours and say, yeah, I got this. But then I want to be a little scared when I get into the studio, because then
Yeah.
I can push one little notch, or I could add like one more little break or a bit more distortion or something, because at the end of the day, you'll never recreate exactly what you're doing in the studio, no matter how many times you do it over and over again. I like that like I created something, or I got something in that take that I've never gotten before, which is why, for example, like if we take like our song The Willow, this song was like dug out of an old hard drive, an old demo iPhone recording. And just the idea is that, like, I heard myself sing this one line, and no matter how many times I tried to recreate it, I couldn't. So we ended up using this one demo iPhone line from our original, and that's what's in The Willow, because there's just sometimes there's just magic
That happens. Yeah.
to a line that happens. So on one hand, I want to be super prepared, and I do, you know, like you say, I know my shit. But on the other hand, I want to surprise myself as well, and that's something that Bob really, really was able to push me to get to these places where, you know, you take an extra step, or let's see, can you go any higher, or can you go lower? Can you go lower at a certain place and see how what happens to your voice when you're super low? So we tried all kinds of things that were very different on this record that I'm very, very happy with.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That takes me to that point where he had you whispering on Addicted.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy when you have somebody, and again, it's another position that, it's an enviable position for a lot of musicians when you can actually be with someone that can help you. You know, so many times when you're in a band, you're just looking to get this thing done, and to have someone around you that isn't necessarily just a hired gun, someone that actually wants to come in and that can make it a difference. That's a really, really cool place to be. Now, was there ever any resistance for you guys in terms of like having him come in and wanting to move stuff around, and you guys going like, no, these are our songs? Or were you always just like, we're open to whatever Bob has to say?
Going into the studio, before the first time we worked with him, my ears kind of perked all over town, because I've heard all kinds of stories of what it's like to work with Bob Rock, and I got really different perspectives from different people. Some people said that he just kind of sat there and did nothing. Some people said that he was really aggressive in his like arrangements, whatever, and really didn't know what to expect. Never met the guy, spoke to him on the phone a few times.
Right.
But once we showed up at the studio, it took less than an hour just to see that the guy is just a good old Canadian boy. It's just like an amazing, fun person to be around, whatever. And this to answer your question, we didn't want to like spend all this money and go and work with somebody who's experienced with Bob Rock to be arguing with him.
Sure, no, of course.
We wanted to take it in, wanted to learn from him. We wanted to see what can he bring to our music and whatever. And when he had suggestions, we definitely tried it. But when you sit in the control room after you try an arrangement thing or whatever, there's a pair of speakers, and the pair of speakers play what you just played, and everybody in the room can tell right away if it's working or not, including Bob Rock. Even if it was his idea, he was like, you know what, fuck it, it's not working. Let's go back to what you guys had. And really, that's the kind of guy he is. He's never going to force anything down your throat. If the speakers thinks it sounds good, if you hear it and it sounds great, then everybody's into it. If it sounds bad, and obviously.
He's a very good communicator, and right off the bat, he said, like, I'm going to be throwing stuff at you guys, and if it's garbage, it's garbage. If you want to do it, just try it, and then we'll see. He's just really good communicator.
Were you guys guarded with your songwriting in terms of like somebody wanting to come in and share publishing with you? Were those kind of things that scared you, or was it more like we wanted this to be a collaborative effort where we'll have, if we do have somebody come in, and I'm asking this from a musician's point of view, because I've been in those conversations where I've had producers, say we want to ask to write with you. And it's a turning point for a lot of people. Like when we went into the first time my band went into a studio was with a guy named Arnold Lanny, and Arnold Lanny was the guy who co-wrote a lot of the songs on Naveed for Our Lady Peace and Clumsy.
Oh, no way.
And he's also in that band Sheriff. And Arnold was, he was a really, really, really smart songwriter, but he aggressively wanted to come in and be like the fifth member of our band and write with us. And it's one of the things that I regret in the decisions that I made as a musician, not allowing him in, because I had heard so many fucking stories of, people getting screwed, and I was just like, no, we're going to write our own songs. We don't need your help. I think it was a dumb mistake, because it was something where I could have really learned, and who knows where I would have gone, but it's those forks in the road. Were you ever in that position with anyone, not just Bob Rock, but anyone that wanted to come in and help write with you guys to make a song better? And you were just like, did you accept it, or did you say, fuck that?
Well, we have actually not been in that position totally. I don't think we've ever gotten that. We've never been
hypothetically we've been
there.
But
I mean, but with our songs, like there were a few songs on this record that Bob said, you know what, like the song is great, but the lyrics aren't there yet. Go back and rewrite them.
Right. So it was more like he would push you guys instead of trying to get in and get his voice heard. He would just suggest as a producer, make this better. Okay.
Exactly. Make this better. I don't buy this. I don't buy this line. Give me a better line.
Was that his line he would use news with you. I don't buy this.
I don't buy it.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
exactly.
don't. I just don't.
Word for
And
word.
he really, really wanted to feel and to be convinced of every line that I say.
And I gotta say, he was right, because
yeah.
like there was one particular song where like you really, I mean, we already recorded all the music for it in the studio, whatever, and that was Leo's turn to like do the lead vocal. And within the first two lines, he was like, "Come in here, please." And he was like, "Listen, guys, I know we're just about to go on tour with Glenn Hughes in the UK." Then he was like, "Go do your tour, write some new lyrics, come back, and we'll do this song right, because this is not right, you know." And he was absolutely correct about it. Like the way
better.
it's so much better. Yeah.
We sat around in a circle for days, throwing ideas at each other, and just like being a band, you know.
Yes.
and now the song feels so much more alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Totally.
So you guys have a show coming up. What is the touring plans for this band in the near future? Like, I know you have a big show coming up in Montreal, but what's on, like, the record is here now.
What do we divulge, Dave?
What?
I said, what do we divulge, Dave?
Whatever, I guess.
I mean, you don't have, if you can't say anything yet, but I mean, do you have a lot of touring plans coming up?
It's all coming within the next couple of days, basically. I mean, I don't know when this is going to be published, but it's like, you know, from basically from June onward, you know, is really when the touring is going to ramp up. And we've got European tour planned, Canadian tour, Quebec tour, and the UK tour, basically between summer and winter, you know. Okay. So the dates are not out yet, but I mean, you know, I don't think there should be any secret as to our plans. I mean, we want to go back to Europe. Sorry, not we want to go. We're going back to Europe. We're going back to the UK. You know, we're going to tour Quebec. Those dates are already all out. So
gonna get
I mean,
to
this
visit
band,
new
this band wants
countries.
to live on the road anyway. You know what I mean?
Right.
Exciting this year, new countries for us. So
yeah,
that's
like where?
That's always fresh.
So, but new places, and then obviously people can follow at thedamntruth.com.
That's right.
Absolutely.
As always, mailing list and socials, of course. Yeah.
Mailing list is the best.
I just want to ask you not to bring it up because I know it was a really fucked up moment for you guys, but can you guys tell me about that fire?
The van fire?
Yeah.
That was the birth of my new life.
I want to hear about it. Tell me quickly, because I know that was a really scary moment for a lot of people.
So 2016, let's set the scene. 2016, Sault Ste. Marie, my first tour ever. And obviously first tour, you bring everything you own, right?
Yeah.
So even though Kevin, your guitar player, told me, don't bring anything you care about. It's going to get destroyed. It's going to get lost. Don't bring anything. He's like, don't even bring your Rickenbacker, you know? And sure enough, he was right. You guys want to finish the story, guys?
I mean, we were driving. The van was making a weird sound.
You were driving.
I was driving, and you know, Ben, our son, was 2 years old at the time. We had a babysitter with us during the van, and we stopped at a Jiffy Lube in Sault Ste. Marie so they can take a look
at that sound.
At that sound. All the garages were closed. It was already evening.
Yeah,
and they took a look. And they said, yeah, you have to change this, whatever. But we were going to Thunder Bay that night.
Mm-hmm.
But you're good to go. You know, it's
you can make it.
You can make it. And maybe when you're in Thunder Bay and when you have a day off, you're just gonna have to deal with the sound. You know,
what people don't know, Sault Ste. Marie is like the halfway point between Toronto and Thunder Bay. It's
correct.
Like it's the 8-hour point where you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of nothingness all around.
So we got like $160 worth of gas in the van, and we're
filled her up.
Yeah, food in our tummies, and we're about to head out to Thunder Bay. And not even 5 minutes into the drive,
I smelled smoke.
Leela smelled smoke, and there were cars like flagging us off the road. And all of a sudden, I saw a flame like coming up from the engine.
While we're driving, about to get on the highway.
I stopped. Leela grabbed Ben. Everybody. Before I even like put the van back into park, everybody was out of the van already.
Out of the van, running into the fields. Like I was sure the van was going to explode, just like in the movies.
Like in the movies, yeah.
So I'm running as far as I can away. Ben is like
cold and rainy.
There's swamp and mud,
like
and I don't
November,
know and we're just like, and I fall with him, like really, like I'm behind like a boulder, like expecting things to like explode.
Yeah, you gotta take the blast.
Yeah, and then but what happened was that right behind us, a guy pulled up, and apparently he was a hockey coach, and he started like he came to like the guys. He was like,
If you want to save your trailer,
let's save your gear, let's save your trailer. You know, he right away kind of sensed the situation, and somehow I don't know how with superhuman strength, these guys managed to detach the trailer from the rest of the
full
van,
of gear, full
pick
of
it up,
gear,
yeah,
and
packed
push
to
it
the
back.
rim,
Wow.
and that's how he saved all of our
so
gear.
the gear was
We all
saved, but
wrecked
we
our
just
backs
stood
forever.
there and watched the van burst into flames.
2 minutes.
With
2
the
minutes. The van was
guitars.
burnt to the frame.
And I
Oh.
To the
remember,
frame.
being, I believe I was on air when I heard about this.
Mm.
Yeah, would have been
and-
your shift, yeah, for sure.
And I remember just being like, what the hell? And I remember everyone around rallied around you guys to help.
Oh man,
It was so crazy because we just figured, we'll just
this is it.
get some money, maybe rent a van and just like, come back to Montreal. It was the beginning of our tour too.
Yeah.
But we did a GoFundMe campaign, and people donated so much money. Really, it was mind blowing. We were able to finish the tour, and I think that's where the kind of seed was sown in our
minds.
in our
There's
minds
a
that
place for a rock.
there's a huge rock and roll community, and people who care.
Well, yeah, they do. And the thing is, what's great about you guys is you guys speak to a demographic of people that really are searching for the next rock and roll heroes. You speak to a group of people, and it's not just necessarily an age group, but it's a group of people that want to hear rock and roll. And there's something about, last Saturday, my daughter's going to be 18 in July, and she really, really, really wanted to go see this band from Atlanta. Horrible that they're called whores, but they're just an incredible band from Atlanta. And I was invited to go to the show, and I had a +1, and my daughter really wanted to go. And I was like, look, it's Fun Electric. Like, I don't know, managed to get her in. And, she's been to a lot of shows with me. I've taken her to see a ton of shows, and she's really a music person. But when you're in a club and there's someone in front of you that's playing a guitar, and there's someone playing drums, and there's this wall of sound that just hits you in the face, when you're a kid, that's a huge impact.
For sure.
And I know I've just seen the change in her since she started. She's like, I don't know what it is, but I just want to hear more guitar stuff. I want to hear more rock and roll. I want to hear heavier stuff.
Yes.
And it's something that I think when people experience it, this whole idea of that rock and roll is dead that's never going to be the case, because there's always going to be a kid that's going to discover something, pick it up, listen to it, and be influenced by it.
I mean, we have to give credit to aggressive music. I mean, it's like everything is so bubblegum in pop and hip hop right now. It's
Watered
like
down.
it's just like everybody's so nice. It's like music not supposed to be nice, man.
No, I mean,
the world isn't a nice place.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to talk about that there's a lot of crap out there.
Yeah.
And rock and roll is the outlet for that. To talk about how shit society can be sometimes, and how shit the political climate is, or whatever it is, but that this is the time to make noise, and this is how we make noise.
Well, this was always, music was always, especially rock and roll, it was always about people using it as a vehicle to say how they really feel. And it's nice when that's never gonna go away. There's always going to be that that thing about plugging in that just changes. It can change a lot of things, and it can change people like one at a time,
Totally.
And
I know it's real, because there was a time when rock and roll was basically illegal,
Yeah.
But it's a real thing. The government had laws against it. So
And when
it's
you go,
powerful.
and there's nothing like, and I mean, I know you guys, Leela and Tom, you guys get this because you do have a kid, when you see it through their eyes for the first time, and when they embrace something that you like, and then they discover their own things that they bring to you, it's this beautiful transference of energy that happens. And I think it's important that we have bands like you guys that are on the forefront for rock and roll doing that, going out there and going, hey, you guys have to see what a real rock and roll band is live. And you guys have always delivered live. I mean, I've seen you guys in big places. I've seen you in small places, from a fucking dive bar to, on a huge stage at Place Bell opening for ZZ Top. Like, I've seen you guys in every possible venue. And, what's great about where you guys are at is that everybody that discovers you, they're like, oh my God, this new band. It's like, there's a lot of us that know you're not a new band. But it's that thing of, it's
Ouch.
when preparation and, you know, meets opportunity, the beautiful thing can happen. And that's, I think, right where you guys are at. You are ready, so that whatever comes at you, you're going to be able to attack it.
I also think that, like, you know, we each we treat every single show as our first and our last.
Yeah.
Like we don't we never hold anything back.
There's no
And
phoning
we're
it in.
always excited and, like, excuse my term, but shitting our pants from fear that it's, you know, it's all going to go wrong, because sometimes it does. And so there's this wonderful, like, terror before we get on stage, and then we rip through our sets. So it's always exciting, and it's always, you know, it is always new. So even, like, you know, I love the idea that people are always discovering us.
Yeah.
Because that's what keeps it going, you know.
100%.
I
Totally.
love it.
Totally.
Guys, thanks for taking the time. Everybody that has not heard this yet, check out the new record, self-titled. It is out everywhere now on Spectra Records, and I wish you nothing but continued success. I'm glad you guys are still out there fighting the fight for rock and roll, and I just don't be strangers, and let's have you back on again so you can tell us more stories about, you know, the next level that you're at when you're like, you know, opening up for these guys and you're doing this arena every night, because I know it's coming. It's you guys are that band that will work, and you will not stop until you achieve that.
Love you, Jason, and thank you so much for being such a huge part of our story, man. We'll never forget that.
Thank you so much.
Let us know if you're around on the 26th. We'd love to have you and your family.
I will be there.
As our personal guests.
I will be there. I like personal guest stuff. I want little sandwiches.
Oh, you will be getting the tea and scones.
We'll see you soon. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Jason.
I'm really happy that success hasn't turned them into assholes.
Yeah, I know. Not at all. Not. There's not like an asshole bone in any of their bodies.
But isn't that the best? Like, can you imagine getting famous when you're like 18, 19? Like what that must do to somebody?
Oh,
like if I got famous now, first of all, I'd be very precautious.
Yeah.
And just to be like, okay, what am I going to say in public that's going to ruin me by accident? Because that's just what fame is now. But
yeah,
but if I got famous now, I would appreciate money so much. Like if money was given to me, there would be no buying a sailboat for nothing or just buying condos for my friends. Now I think I would invest in apartment buildings and, you know.
Yeah, you'd be smart. You'd be smart with it.
And full Lex Luthor. Land.
Yeah. Well,
land.
It you know, there's a point to that. But it's nice. It's funny when you talk to people that have had success at an early age and then kind of squander it, or they break up, or whatever the reasons are, and then they're able to come back to their old situation with new fans and sometimes free of a record label. Like I saw it happen with Faith No More. Like Faith No More were, you know, really, really popular for a minute, and then they brought fans along with them for the journey, put out music that they wanted to put out, and then disbanded. Subsequently became more and more popular. Every new metal band was citing them as an influence. And then when they reformed, they were doing everything on their own. They had their own label. They you know, their management was they were just very, very smart about what they did, and they reaped the fucking rewards for it. And it was nice to see. It's almost like you benefit from your death, you know, because like when a band breaks up and you have let's say a band, someone passes away, like Nirvana, Kurt Cobain passes away, and then you've got my dog just got up on the. Hey.
I was wondering if you were growing wings. I couldn't really make out what was happening in the background.
June, what's going on? June's up here. All right, June decided to pay a visit. So when you look at like someone like Kurt Cobain to pass away from Nirvana, imagine, you know, there she is. Imagine if you get Nirvana back together. It would be absolutely mind blowing, you know, if that could happen. So it doesn't necessarily happen all the time. But when it does, like for them, it's really cool to see. So what I'm saying about that, and just to get back to your whole thing, I think the Damn Truth have enough experience in music that now that if they do reach a certain amount of popularity, they will appreciate it, because I think they've lived enough, and I don't think they would squander it away.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, the band is so multi-talented. A lot of them they were recording themselves for years.
Yep.
Run a recording studio. It's incredible. They still do some of them still do these amazing pub gigs. And my friend Ashley, she is a huge fan of The Damn Truth, and goes to watch them. And shout out to Greg and Rosie too. They're always
for sure. Greg and Rosie from our Comic-Con team, they love The Damn Truth, and they'll even go see Leela and Tom when they play like at Cunningham's, just doing acoustic duos.
There you go. That's what I mean. Yeah. But that's cool. You know what I mean? Like I always wanted to kind of be one of those people that play in the pubs, but at the same time, like, you know, in that sense where it's just kind of like, it's not like it's done with a love of music.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. All right. Well, listen, it was really, really good to have them on the show. I'm glad that June made a guest appearance. We got to have her on the podcast sometime. I wonder what she'd have to say. June, want to come on the podcast? No, she's not interested. The new album is a self-titled album, The Damn Truth, right here. Pick it up where you can, anywhere vinyl is sold, and also you can stream it. It's a great record. And of course, we didn't really talk about it, you and I, but we did talk about it in the interview, produced by none other than Bob Rock. Look at this. Doesn't this look like an Oasis?
Yeah, can we just take a second just to acknowledge, like, we are a Kevin Bacon game away now from Bob Rock.
I know, dude. We're definitely less than 6 degrees. So that's kind of cool. Listen, man, I'm glad we got to do this. I'm glad we got to talk to The Damn Truth. We got some great stuff coming up, some great episodes. We went to talk to Dan from Disturbed. That's going to be coming up. We've got some other surprises. One of our very special guests that joined us early on in the podcast is coming back. And also we're going to be talking to a very interesting gentleman who did a documentary on the final days of Stan Lee. And I think this is going to blow people away. So lots of fun stuff coming up, and more of you and me, which is always cool. And thank you so much for joining us right here on the Rockman Power Hour. And we'll see you next time. Don't forget, if you like this, click down below and make sure that you like, subscribe, and tell all your friends about it. Appreciate you guys. See you next time. Hey, thanks so much for watching the podcast. We really appreciate your support. And if you're enjoying the podcast, click this link right over here to watch the next episode, and click right over here and subscribe. And that way you won't miss anything.